Okay, I know the other day we had the Fox News thing. Fox News, mainstream big time Fox News, comes out and replays 2010's APAC meeting with Ron Paul as the winner, straw poll, whatever, and you hear the booing, and they got caught red-handed playing last year's instead of this year's, which was showing all the cheering and happiness. And then they had to renege what they said. Oh, sorry about that, we accidentally pulled last year's. Sorry about that. You know, as if you accidentally pulled it. Yeah. So they got caught red-handed. That pissed me off, and I told you it did. I did a video, and I told you I was going to go down to the local Fox News station in my city and wear a hidden pen camera to go ask them about this nonsense that their corporate, you know, Fox News is doing. Well, it turns out the next day they had this great national apology, etc. We made a mistake, blah, 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 which we know was a lie, but they got caught, so they had to fess up. So I didn't go down to Fox News, but I was pissed off. So after reading this thing today I'm about to read, I'm pissed off again, even though we already knew, you and I, and most people who are into this kind of thing that we study, we already knew this was going to happen. But once you see them doing it right in front of your face, it pisses you off anyways. Washington. Federal Reserve Chair Ben Bernanke, or Chairman Ben Bernanke, on Tuesday, which was yesterday, warned a sustained rise in oil prices could threaten U.S. growth and spark dangerous price rises as he eyed turmoil in Libya. Libya is only 3% of the world's entire output. How could that possibly throw off the world's, you know, the U.S. economic recovery, the TARP bailout, the banker bailout, everything else, the massive trillions that they printed? How could it offset that? It's just 3%, right? Yeah, because it's just a story that needs to go out there into people's heads. Well, oh, well, that's why I'm suffering. Well, I don't have control over the Middle East, you know. Who could have ever imagined these guys would have started rioting? I mean, they did have dictators in all those countries. You can't blame the people for the uprising, and now oil is skyrocketing because they're shutting off oil wells over there. Just one of those bad times, you know, darn it. Maybe I sinned too many times. Maybe we did a little too much sinning, and, you know, I'm having to pay for that. When in reality, it has nothing to do with that. It's simply these men that Lindsey Williams talks about, the IMF, the World Bank, causing these problems. They're going to use it as an excuse to collapse the US dollar, to collapse the US economy, and blame it on the Middle East, so that when the Middle East is holding a bag of worthless dollars, they're furious at us. They cut off the oil wells and to us anyways, and say, we're not sending you anything. Then miraculously, as Lindsey Williams says, we will find 3 or 4 major oil wells already dug, already ready to go, that it's going to be declassified finally, but you're not going to know it was declassified. They're going to pretend it was just found recently, and great, we don't need the Middle East anyways. And they're going to use this excuse over there to say, well, that's why the dollar got devalued. That's why our economic recovery stalled and completely collapsed, because, you know, what I'm about to read you. So he says rises in oil prices could threaten U.S. growth and spark dangerous price rises as he eyed turmoil in Libya. Bernanke told Congress he believes unrest in the oil-rich Middle East would result in a temporary and modest increase in U.S. prices, but acknowledged greater risks do remain. The most likely outcome, this is out of his mouth. And before I say this, remember his out of his mouth from 2006 when someone asked him about the housing prices rising so fast and could there be a dangerous bubble that occurred, and he said the likelihood of that is astronomically, you know, impossible. It won't happen, and it did happen, right? And all these other things that have taken place since then, and unemployment going to 10% and staying there, and rising even above it. If we don't do this bailout package, it'll go to 10, 11%. And if we do the bailout package, it'll go down to 6 or 7% in the next year or two. We're still at 10%. So he lied again there, but he guaranteed it wouldn't happen, and it did. So there's 2 strikes, and there's multiple strikes. So here, let me continue the next strike of old Ben Bernanke, or as that little thing on YouTube calls him, the Ben Bernanke. The most likely outcome is that the recent rise in commodity prices will lead to, at most, a temporary and relatively modest increase in U.S. consumer price inflation. That said, sustained rises in the prices of oil and other commodities would represent a threat to both economic growth and overall price stability. He added that there was a particular risk from unrest pushing up expectations about future price rises. The threat of higher prices could be enough to spook wary U.S. shoppers, who are only reluctantly opening their wallets after the worst recession in a generation. Bernanke vowed that the central bank would monitor developments closely and would respond if necessary to ensure the economic recovery remains on track. How much do you want to bet the economic recovery does not stay on track, will not stay on track, and will be devastating here in the near future for all of us? How much do you want to bet? Okay. Amid fighting between the Libyan opposition and forces loyal to leader Muammar Gaddafi, Libya's estimated 1.6 million barrel a day production has slowed to a trickle, sending global oil prices rocketing. So you mean to tell me 1.6 million a day barrels a day can send prices skyrocketing, when I read to you the other day in my Lindsey Williams timeline that there was an article that showed when prices were $50 to $60 a barrel after they had reached 150, as he said they would be coming down. The next month they hit 130, month after that $100, month after that 80, 70, 50. And then when it got down to around that level, I see an article, Saudi Arabia cuts production 2.2 million barrels so that they can try to push the price up, and it didn't do anything, and the price broke records in that time and went down to 40. So they cut 2.2 million barrels then, didn't do anything, and the price actually went down to $40 a barrel. And here we are with this nonsense propaganda in my face. I'm reading you. They're cutting it, but they've slowed to a trickle now, so 1.6 million barrels is hardly anything anymore, because they've cut that down to what it says is a trickle, whatever that equals, sending global oil prices skyrocketing. That's impossible, because Saudi Arabia did more than that, and it still went down. Here we're hearing that they're cutting and it's going up. Doesn't make sense, does it? No, because the IMF and the World Bank are pulling the strings. They're just releasing these little propaganda pieces so that the average person says, oh, well, that's why the price is rising. Oh, well, that's why the price of a barrel skyrocketed $8 in one day. Oh, that's why a month later it's $130 a barrel. Oh, that's why. And you'll just accept it as an act of God, an act of bad weather. You know, no one's doing this. It's just an act of God. Again, you know, it's the Middle East. We can't control that. When in fact, we are the ones who started it, according to Lindsey Williams. And he is always right. So let me continue. Americans have seen the price of gasoline at the pump rise an average of 21 cents a gallon in the last week, according to figures from the American Automobile Association. With much of the global economy still ailing from the financial crisis, many fear sharply higher oil prices could smother the recovery and send many nations spiraling back into recession. But don't worry, Ben Bernanke said he will do everything to not make sure that doesn't happen. And I've got about as much as faith in him as I do, never mind. President Barack Obama's top economic advisor, Austin Goolsbee, said prices were not yet at levels that could hurt the economy deeply. Now listen to that carefully. As Lindsey Williams says, listen to their buzzwords as they are telling you what will happen. Don't listen to the sentence or the phrase. Listen to the buzzwords within the sentence or phrases they're speaking. Let me say that again. President Barack Obama's top economic advisor, Austin Goolsbee, said prices were not yet at levels that could hurt the economy deeply. Not yet. Keyword. They will be, and they will be worse than all people predicted, all economic advisors, all experts, all blah blah blah. It's actually higher than that, therefore it's even going to be devastating, more than we ever thought. And that recovery was just kind of coming along. Man, we had it in the bag, you know, darn. Yeah, sure you did. You're using this as an excuse to say that's why the economy destroyed, that's why your dollar's destroyed. It's just an excuse. We continue to monitor the events in the Middle East and the fuel markets, because high fuel costs do have a negative impact on the economy, he said. Really? You mean everything, because everything is tied to fuel? Yeah? Oh, okay. Thus far, we are not forecasting that at these levels, keyword, not yet, these levels, they would derail the recovery. Thus far, we are not forecasting that at these levels, keyword, at these levels, they would derail the recovery. And he's saying that to let you know in advance, hint, hint, we're not there yet, but we will be there yet. We did tell you in so many words, you just didn't read between the lines. And now it is at those levels that we feared that wouldn't happen. They did happen. Oh my God, economic recovery finished, dollar finished, 401k of yours finished, stock market, God knows what's gonna happen to that, because it actually could go up if the dollar collapses, believe it or not. The stocks could actually rise as the dollar collapses, just like gold and silver will skyrocket. The stock market's not gonna skyrocket, I can assure you. If the stock market doubled somehow, went to 23, 24,000, gold and silver would be, gold would be probably $1,000, $4,000. Silver, or probably more than that, silver would be 3-4 times its value today. So on a one-to-one basis, comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges, current prices of silver now are not going to double if the stock market was to double based off the dollar collapsing. Gold and silver would go way more than double, triple, quadruple, whatever at the same time. So people would say, hey, I thought you guys said there's going to be a big stock market crash. My 401k is not looking too bad. It went up a lot. Yeah, it went up a lot, but the dollar value went up way more than your, the dollar devalued way more than your stock rose, you bozo. So even at a 23,000 Dow, silver's gonna be $200 an ounce, right? You know, something sick. Gold's gonna be $5,000-$6,000 an ounce. So you can chant and cheer all you want about your 401k, even though it didn't go down, it went up, it still went down because the dollar got devalued so badly. That'll be the old switcheroo that they pull on people. I can't wait for that. Okay, so let me start with that last line, and I got one more paragraph. Thus far, we are not forecasting that at these levels they would derail the recovery, but the price rises bring an extra headache for Bernanke. In a bid to keep the recovery on track, the Federal Reserve is currently pumping $600 billion into the economy. Remember quantitative easing 2.0? And we're going to get ready for quantitative easing 3.0 and probably 4.0 when this whole collapse takes place, because they won't have a choice. They're going to have to. That has brought criticism that the Fed could be stoking inflation. Bernanke and his allies insist that the Fed has all the tools necessary to unwind their stimulus policies if and when they need to. Federal Reserve policymakers, he said, will remain unwaveringly committed to price stability. You're darn right they will, and they will print money as the dollar collapses, as the price of oil skyrockets, as the prices of commodities, food, everything you need in your daily life, energy prices, water even is going to be affected. Everything that you touch, look at, see, smell, taste has something to do with oil. And that priceless economic recovery is finished. As we already said, as Peter Schiff has said, Gerald Celente, Max Kaiser, Alex Jones, his guests that he brings on, myself, for several years this has been going on. I've been trying to wake people up to this since 2007. I mean, come on, you know. And I didn't start by saying, oh, let me make YouTube videos and that'll be the way I do this. I started by contacting the people closest to me, my friends, my family, finding out very rapidly that no one gives a crap. Now people are starting to give a crap, and I'm actually going to eat lunch with somebody right now who at first was kind of like, Joe, are you, he actually said, are you in some cult? Like, what is all this stuff you're talking about? I said, listen, just do me the favor and watch a couple of these documentaries to start with. Before you say that, you haven't even looked at what I'm telling you about. So in all fairness, give me that opportunity. He said, you know, you're right. I'll do that. It wasn't but a few months that he quickly got on track and said, man, I'm glad you said that to me, and I did and followed through, because I'm starting to see some things now. And then he'd see some other things, and he'd send me stuff, and I'd send him stuff, and I'm saying, see, there it is. You found it yourself. Check this out. So now we're on the same page. We are both on the same page. I'm glad it actually worked with at least one of my friends. A couple of my friends are getting on board. Not as much as I would probably like, but that's okay. You know, people are where they're at. So anyways, you know, at that point I decided, let me go to YouTube and I'm going to start waking up other people who care. I've tried all my friends and family. Most don't care. I just got to get this information out. I can't sit here and be quiet. I have to talk about this stuff. I've got to get it off my chest. So that's when I started, you know, a year plus ago, whatever, sometime in, you might see some of my videos from late 2009, I'm not sure, when I started doing this, you know. And now I've got people, we're all on the same page, we're working together, we're sharing information, people message me stuff, I report on it, you know, it's good stuff. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about. I'm pissed off about that, but we already knew it. We knew this was going to be the case. We knew they're going to use this as an excuse to destroy the economy, blame it on the Middle Easterners, so that we're pissed off at the Middle East. You bastard guys, you did this to us. And then they're going to be pissed off at us because they don't send us oil anymore, as Lindsey Williams said. So they're going to be pissed off at us. We're not sending you any oil anymore because we're holding a devalued dollar. We're pissed off at them because of the rise in gas prices. So we have a reason to hate each other. When in fact, nobody is looking at the IMF and World Bank and the elite, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the big guys, right? The big guys, and saying that's who caused this thing. But Lindsey Williams has proven from his video, all of his videos, but in particular the one from October 2010. It was 4 months ago, and he said this would happen in the Middle East, and they would use this to make the price of oil skyrocket. Of course, a skyrocketing oil price is going to make our economy get destroyed. I mean, it's a no-brainer. That's what happened in 2008 when prices skyrocketed. Right after that was when we had the financial collapse take place of the world. September, October 2008. It happened. So get ready for the big collapse, in other words. And by the way, if we're seeing history repeating from only a year ago, there actually might be a slight possibility here that we do see gold and silver drop a hefty portion, maybe 20-25% of whatever the high is over the next few months maybe. And if it does, depending on where it's at, whatever it drops to, I'll make the claim now that you will never in your life or your children's life see the price come down to whatever it comes down to. If that does take place, it will be short-lived. You will have to get on immediately. I will put a video out immediately if I see the price crash down. If it's 50 bucks an ounce at that time and it goes down to 35 or 40, man, I'm gonna have to put out the video then. Hopefully for you guys who still want to get some now, it's $35 an ounce. Maybe it'll drop to 22, 23, you know, who knows. If this happens, I can't say it will. Lindsey Williams guy told him the prices are not coming down, they're gonna go up. But even if it dropped 20% short term, people scooped up, went crazy, shortages all over the place for silver, and then it blew up to $100, $200 an ounce. You can't say Lindsey Williams was wrong because it went down 20% for, you know, 2 days and then went back up and skyrocketed. You know, you can't go there. So anyways, I gotta go to lunch. I'll upload this video when I get back. Talk to you guys later.